Going to start now. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Making the Transition to Business Analysis, the webinar. Tonight, you will be hearing from two seasoned business analysts, Samson Osen and Yvonne O. And our guest speaker for the evening, as I mentioned, is Yvonne O. She is a business analyst consultant who actually transitioned into business analysis. She was in civil service for about 10 years, but now she's successfully transitioned into BA and is now part of a leading consultancy firm. And she's currently a lead BA on the Gov.uk Gov.uk project. We'll just call it that. But she will go ahead and share more about herself. So if we can all, with our digital claps, welcome Yvonne.
Hello, can everyone hear me and see me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Yvonne O. As mentioned, I am a BA at a leading consultancy firm. But yeah, I transitioned into this role about 3 to 4 years ago. So when I left uni, I joined the civil service. So my first role was at the Home Office and I was working as an asylum support caseworker. Left that role and moved around the government essentially. So I've done a number of roles from policy to strategy. I've been a diary manager, and then I went into data analysis. And then at that point, I decided to branch out into business analysis, and that's what I'm currently doing at the moment. So I've done a few different things, but yes, I have successfully made the transition into becoming a BA more recently. I think you're on mute, or you are on mute.
Cool. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
Awesome. No, thanks for that overview of your career today. So I guess one of the main things a lot of people ask is why business analyst? What inspired you to become the business analyst that you are today?
If I'm being totally honest with you, I have a very close friend who's been a BA for years. So talking about transitioning, we actually studied together in uni. I was doing a module in law. So she was in she studied, got a degree in law and she's a BA now. So there's another example, anyone can really do this role if you have the core skills. But essentially her career journey always sounded much more interesting than mine did. So she had done projects with Harry Potter, Sony. She was always traveling. So this seemed really exciting. So one day I said, Abigail, what is it that you do? And when she told me what her day-to-day was, I was like, well, there's things that I can do that, and there's things that I probably need to learn or maybe brush up on my skills. But I guess to answer the question, it seemed like something that I could do. It didn't seem like something that I had to perhaps go back to uni for or to do another course. It seemed that something that was quite inviting because it seemed as though I could actually transfer the skills I already had into the role. I guess my second reasoning for becoming a BA was that the money is very, very rewarding. And so again, this particular friend was a contractor. So my first role as a BA, I went into contracting straight away. And, you know, the money was good, a great day rate for someone that was, I guess, new to the career, new to the industry. It was still a really good rate. And it allowed me to have that flexibility to choose the kind of projects I wanted to work on. And so, yeah, two main things for me. It seemed like something I could do, and also the money was also quite inviting. So that's why I initially kind of started to do my research about what a BA, who a BA was and what they did. And it's something that I'm still enjoying doing until today, really.
No, awesome. I mean, look, I think it's also a great it's probably a good thing to understand what sort of some of the mindset shifts that you had to make as well, and some of the practical steps that you had to take to become a BA. Because obviously, I guess you had to do both. It's not just one over the other.
Yeah, so I had to understand what the role was and what would be expected of me. And so a lot of research went into that. So that was, just doing general searches on Google or watching YouTube videos or also having discussions with other friends that I have friends who are project managers. So I would say, oh, in your environment at work, what does a BA do and how do you work with your BA? I had friends who were interested in, agile delivery and Scrum. Some of them were or are Scrum masters. So, ensuring that I had a good basic understanding of what would be expected of me, and then being able to identify the gaps that I had in my knowledge, or for example, some of the technical skills that I didn't have or would be expected of me. I would start also looking into what that kind of looked like and how complex that would be. So I guess the first thing I would say is kind of know the role, and try and think about, is this something that you want to do or something that you're able to do, and how much time are you willing to actually put in to learn new skills within that? Because, for example, I didn't want to spend hours learning coding because I have no interest in coding. However, I'm really good at speaking. I'm really good at getting information out of people. And so I knew that, hey, if one of the main roles of a BA is to hold workshops, for example, I could do that. I'm able to put people in the room. I'm able to evoke conversation, and I'm able to get an understanding of what users need from those conversations. So I think that's where I kind of started from.
Right, awesome, awesome. And did you face any sort of setbacks on your way to becoming a BA? So, for example, when you transitioned from your non-BA role to your first BA role, were there any challenges that were um, involved in that you experienced, or how long did it actually take for you to make that initial transition?
I would say I started looking at I'd say a couple of months, I would say, because I spent a few months really just familiarize myself with the role, and then trying to do some, interview prep and, and playing that through. So it doesn't take too long because, again, I'm not a functional consultant. I
Hmm.
was looking at having a particular expertise in a certain application. I wasn't trying to become a genius in all things MS Dynamics or Salesforce. I was very much focusing on being that kind of traditional business analyst. So that was easy for me to do. I hope that answered your question.
No, it did, absolutely. And then, how did you go about like kind of identifying some of the gaps that you had as a BA? Did you have to get your first role before you realized it, or was it
Yeah,
you knew prior to
yeah.
having a look at it?
To be honest, a lot of because the role of a BA can be so diverse. It actually just depends what kind of project you're put on. So, for example, when I was contracting, my first role was with the FCDO. So, in that role, we were working on a customer relationship management tool, trying to get everyone's data onto a new flashy software that the department could use and roll out across the world. And in that project, it was on Salesforce. So I didn't have a background in Salesforce, right? So I'm learning how to use this application as well as gathering information on what the business needs at the same time. So it just depends on what project you land. And when you get there, it's your job as a BA to kind of understand where the project is. So when I got onto that role, it was very much in the discovery phase. Everything was still new. We're still trying to understand what it is that the FCDO wants. We're still trying to map out what it looks like visually. We're still trying to understand what the limitations are that Salesforce would provide us with. So it was really fun. I got to travel out to Dubai, hold a few workshops with people over there. So that was great. However, in the role I'm doing now, I mentioned that I improve and maintain some of the HMRC websites that everyday people like you and me may use. That is a project that's already gone live. Those pages, those services have been live for years. And so I'm not necessarily trying to understand what the users need for those pages, but I am understanding from delivery leads how to improve those services. So it literally just depends where you find yourself, but you
Yeah.
just make sure that wherever the project is, know where it is, understand what's expected from you, and where what the kind of next steps are in order for you to be successful in that role, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched upon something very important, and I'm probably it perked a lot of people's ears up when you spoke about the contracting
Yeah.
being very rewarding. You've had experience of working both independently as well as a full-time member of staff. So do you want to talk more about that and some of the pros and cons regarding that?
Yeah, sure. So I would say where I'm now, I'm a permanent staff. So, you know, you always have that kind of job security. You always have that kind of network to fall back on. You have colleagues, you know, you build friendships with people, you know, the familiar faces. It allows there, you know, there's always a budget for learning and development. So you're very much a member of staff within a bigger community. But when you're independently contracting, it's not the case because it's just you that comes into a role. So you have to actually build all of those relationships yourself. The project manager can turn around and say, actually, we thought we had the budget for you, but we don't, and then you're gone. So it just really depends what kind of works for your lifestyle. You have to kind of just think about where you are in life. For me, I'm a mother, so knowing that my job is permanent and stable, knowing that there is a budget for me to improve and go on courses was really appealing to me. But again, when I was contracting, again, I could choose the kind of projects I was working on. So I remember I interviewed for London Fire Brigade, but the work was more based on mapping out processes, which for me is not something I want to do every day. I don't want to be sitting on Visio and mapping out a process. Whereas my role at the FCDO, I knew traveling was a bit involved. I love traveling. I knew it was more of holding workshops and refining and working with developers to kind of put this shiny new product out. I love things like that. So I had the choice to choose. I had the ability to choose what I wanted to do. Whereas when you're a permanent staff in a consultancy firm, that's not always the case. You're literally just put where the need is. And so I think that would be the main kind of difference for me, is that having that liberty to choose what I wanted to do with my time.
Ah, okay, totally understand. And I guess like in terms of like some of the responsibilities that are also involved in being an independent business analyst, such as, you know, declaring your own taxes, having an accountant, and so on and so forth. There's
Yes,
a
yeah, that can get a bit tricky. Thankfully for me, I was not to bore everyone with the financial side, but my role was inside the RI35, so I didn't have to declare anything. I was seen as some sort of employee, so taxes were taken directly from my weekly pay. So it can be tricky if you're outside RI35. There's a big debate about inside and outside and what's actually lucrative and not what's actually, you know, worth the pay. But yeah, I would definitely say when you're independently contracting, you have to literally take care of everything yourself. But obviously, when you work for a firm, you just email HR and they sort it out for you. So this depends what kind of floats your boat, what you like, or how
yeah,
admirable you are. Yeah.
yeah. And just in terms of like, you know, I mean, you spoke about your friends being a BA or a project manager. And
Yeah.
how else did you leverage your existing network to get you to become a BA?
Yeah, so I went on LinkedIn a lot. So I would kind of search business analysts, and you know, it would bring up the list of BAs. And it's really important to take a snoop. So, you know what your colleagues are doing, you know, look at their roles and responsibilities, see what they're highlighting, see the kind of maybe softwares that are trendy at the moment, the kind of thing businesses want. So you mentioned, you know, digital transformation. For me, when I was working in the civil service, a lot of my roles were around big digital transformation anyway. So it was something I
Mm,
was already interested in, something I already had an understanding about, albeit within the government space. So yeah, LinkedIn really helped me just to know what other BAs were doing, the kind of courses I should probably go. I looked at the qualifications that they had, for example. And then, yeah, I guess speaking to people. So speaking to people that, again, may not be BAs, but are within that space was really helpful for me. And just also the traditional stuff, I just like picking up a book and reading.
yeah.
necessarily, you can't really avoid that. But those are the kind of initial things that I did in the start of
Right.
my
Okay.
yeah.
Right. And in terms of like your first BA role compared to now, would you say things have got easier with experience? Did you find a lot of projects are similar or very different?
I'm
What sort
less
of experience you have
anxious
there?
about going onto a project because
Yeah.
the more work you do as a BA, you realize that you work with the same kind of people. And so once you understand the behaviors of those kinds of people, it helps you because you can anticipate how something's going to go. So for example, in my first role as a BA, I didn't hold any refinement sessions really. A refinement session is where you look at requirements and try to figure out as a team how you're going to implement those, basically. Didn't have to hold any of that. My role was very much forward facing with stakeholders, so understanding what they wanted. But in the role I'm in today, every day I'm working with developers who speak their own language, right? They speak in code, they're so technical, and sometimes my mind is like, what can you speak in plain English? But that is the role of a BA. Your job is to kind of be that middleman between the business and the tech. That's why you're there, because the tech and the business, they want to do the same thing, but their language isn't the same. So just relating it back to my original point, the more products you do, you just get more comfortable because you know the kind of people you're working with. If you're working in government, for example, government is really reactive, right? So they don't like change until the Prime Minister forces it on their neck, for example. So you're going to be met with stakeholders who may not want to change the old legacy system that they have, but you're there telling them, we're getting rid of this system. You have to think of what else you want. You might be met with some hostility because they don't want change. So I guess knowing the environment you're going into, knowing the skills that you can have to draw out the best in people, to understand what people want and also sometimes there are disparities between what seniors want and what the users on the ground want. So again, as a BA, your role is to say, hey, they want this, let's prioritize it and let's bring it together. So it really just depends on where you land yourself.
Yeah, I think you touched on a very important point in terms of stakeholder management, and that really does utilize a lot of the soft skills that you do have. Which ones do you think you have to use on a very regular basis, apart from being calm?
I would say, um, trying to figure out what people are really saying.
Hmm.
Because I could say, oh, I want the car to be I want to build a car. So I want to build a car and I want to build a red car. So as a BA, I'm like, okay, you want to build a car. You want the car to be red. Is there any, I wouldn't just take that requirement as it is. My job is to elicit the requirement, right? So really understand, why is it that you want this red car? Does it have to be red? What is it about the car that you really drives value for you? So I guess, yeah, going back to my point, I guess really understanding why this user or this stakeholder wants this thing. And then taking that and figuring out how we could do it. Looking at, are there dependencies? Are there other ways we can build this car? Do we already have a car that we can actually use that the same parts of the car to make something that can be pushed out or rolled out faster or in a better way? And then that's gonna please some senior stakeholders because it might reduce their budget a little bit. So
Hmm.
really try to figure out what you're eliciting. Why is it they want what they want? Because a lot of times people say they want things, but they don't really know why they want it. So as a BA, you really have to understand the logic behind requirements. It's not just about documenting everything. Yes, documentation is very important, but it's also really important to really understand why they've asked for this particular requirement.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, in total agreement with that. And a couple more questions. So, what sort of advice would you give to somebody who's looking to transition to the business analyst role, regardless of their career background? What three top tips would you provide to them?
I would say if you're someone who has an interest in tech, then I know we touched on it before about qualifications and things like that, but maybe again, do your research, kind of find out what are the trendy things that are in the tech world. So for example, you know, with AI, like if you have an interest in AI, you know, learn about it. If you have a financial background, there are financial BAs. If you are really technical and you like building stuff and you like to play with applications, perhaps find an application like Salesforce or MS Dynamics that you want to specialize in, because when you get your qualifications in those particular applications, you know, the jobs will come running to you because you're an expert in something, you know. So I would say try to figure out what it is that you why you want to become a BA, I guess. So for me, as I mentioned before, I just wanted a career change. I didn't want to spend hours learning something new. I didn't want to do any more qualifications. I didn't want to go back to school, but I just wanted change. So for me, I'm a traditional kind of a BA. But yeah, definitely think about if you have an interest in tech, or yeah, definitely try and utilize that and you know, build yourself up on that. So I would say that's the kind of first thing. Identify what you want to do. I would say figure out the kind of things that make you tick. So for example, like if you like to work, if you want to work in the sense of the kind of work that you want to do. So if you want to work in projects that are delivering change, then you would obviously look at those kind of roles. If you are more of a person who likes meticulously understanding how a process works, maybe look at roles that are more to do with process mapping or understanding the as is rather than just focusing on what you want to build. So kind of understand, you know, what your limitations are, what you really want to avoid, I think is really useful. And thirdly, I would say perhaps, what was my third bit of advice? I would say think about the next steps. So ask people who are BAs, if I'm a BA and I do it for 18 months or 5 years, what's next for me? What would my career look like? How was it going to progress? How could it change? If I decided not to do anything else and became a BA, but what could I do within this kind of this profession? Or what could I use? How can I use this as leverage to move on to something else? I would also start thinking about the future, and what that could mean for you, once you start your BA journey.
Awesome advice. And what are your career aspirations after this? So you're BA now, you've well accomplished. What do you plan on doing next?
I knew you would ask that. I think for me, I want to become an expert in something. I want to study an application, or I just want I want to hone in on something really. I don't know what that thing is yet. But I still definitely want to stay in a digital space. For me, I like working on projects where I'm delivering something. I like working on projects where we're building something brand new, and I also like working on projects where we're actually delivering value to somebody. It's not just for financial gain. Like, I don't necessarily want to work for Microsoft for the sake of making Microsoft billions. I want to do something that actually helps other people, because I guess as a former civil servant, you're always working to the greater good of the United Kingdom anyway. So for me, the projects I like to embark on are ones that do actually impact people's lives. So for me, that sort of thing, I think I would look at honing in on my skills, but also ensuring that it is giving value to somebody. I think that's what gives me fulfillment.
Awesome. Now, wish you all the best with that, Yvonne, and thank you for sharing all your experiences. Is there any way people can contact you? We can reach out
Yeah.
to you.
LinkedIn would be the best place. I think that I've already shared my details. If not, I'm happy for you to forward it on to whoever may ask of it. But LinkedIn would be the best place. So if anyone has any questions about contracting, if you have any questions about any bits of advice I can share some links, some material that really helped me in the start of my journey. I'm more than happy to do so.
Awesome. Thank you, Yvonne.
You're welcome.
And
all right. Thank you all so much. But thank you very much, Yvonne. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you for sharing your experience. I definitely even learned some stuff. So it was good to pick up on that. And thank you everyone for joining us as well. It's been a pleasure having you all.